Ever since I was a child, I've been interested by the sea and its mystery. I grew up in a coastal community on the south coast of Ireland, where the sea is very much embedded in our identity, in our cultural heritage and in our local history. People have always depended on the sea for resources without fully understanding it, so they would have long mythologized and used almost mystical language to describe the phenomena, such as different kinds of waves, different kinds of sounds, different wind types and different sea states. So the sea really sparks the imagination of these coastal communities. We can't see the seabed, but we can ponder questions like what kind of biodiversity, what kind of different species might be down there, and also what kind of resources might be there to help us engage more with the sea in terms of a sustainable future. As a marine geoscientist, I'm interested in the seabed, how it's evolved over time. It's fascinating because it can really tell us a lot about the evolution of our planet, and it can tell us a lot about our life back on the shore. We're here today on the Celtic Voyager, where we're doing some research, gathering data on the seabed in order to better understand where we can place offshore wind turbines.
The Irish sector of the Irish Sea is earmarked for offshore wind farm developments. However, the seabed is highly mobile and morphodynamic, which poses a huge risk on the critical infrastructure involved.
So the sea has an abundance of resources, not least of all energy in the form of wind and wave and tidal currents. So as scientists and engineers, we're trying to harness that power and convert it into renewable electricity to power society. My research at iCRAG, the Science Foundation Ireland Research Centre in Applied Geosciences, looks like how we can use data and information from the seabed, such as that provided by the Infomar programme, a data set which allows us to look at the seabed over time and to develop really detailed maps and information that we can feed into models that simulate how the seabed has evolved over time. We don't actually know how the seabed will react when we put a wind turbine there. However, shipwrecks are already in place on the seabed and they can perturb the local dynamics. So if we want to safely deploy wind energy infrastructure, we need to understand these dynamics. Shipwrecks always capture the imagination because ultimately they tell a story. So there's always something around them in terms of how they sank or whom or what may have been on board. So that way there's always a fascination generated by them. So we use these wrecks as natural laboratories to study the interaction between man-made objects and the seabed, and the information we can garner from this we can apply to other infrastructure like wind turbines and select the best sites to build these structures. So effectively we use sound as a means to map the seabed by sending down a pulse of energy and recording the time it takes to travel down, be reflected off the seabed and return to the vessel. This is a U-boat that was sunk during the Second World War at the mouth of Cork Harbour. You can see it quite nicely on this image because the different colours represent different depths. The greener colour is different to the blue because it's shallower, and that represents the wreck itself sitting on the seabed. I'm passionate about this project because it uses the past to inform the future and how we can use this information then to best site locations for future offshore wind farms. As we move from carbon heavy sources of energy to carbon neutral ones, this will mean big changes in the way we live our lives, and we need to bring society along, help them understand and embrace this change. One of the core principles we have at iCRAG is to go where people are and bring our science to them through various different mediums. Martina OBrien is our artist in residence at iCRAG, so she works with us by following us and following our science and using it as inspiration for her work.
My main fascination with the ocean is that it's probably the last place on Earth that's unexplored. I use my camera on board because I like to visually capture the research as it unfolds. Anything further than 200 metres down is pitch petrol darkness. So we need these types of technology to allow us to view and access such spaces. So I realised my ideas through various media, including moving image, installation, printmaking and drawing.
So science and its results can often be dense and incomprehensible, whereas Martina's art is visually captivating and very much engaging. The world, both man-made and natural, is constantly changing and evolving. So by making our science more comprehensible, we can help people demystify the science and engage in a lifestyle which will lead to a much more sustainable future.